Grab your cup of coffee, and today we're going to talk about how we are using the Movies as Literature curriculum to teach our 11th graders their topic for this year, which is movies based on American literature. Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying this series of talking about movies as literature and how we're adapting it to teach all of our grades from 8th grade through 12th grade. For all of our kids, we have 2 that are dyslexic and we have 2 that are advanced placement who are not dyslexic. I'm not saying that a dyslexic child cannot be advanced placement. That's just how it worked out in our family. So we have 2 that are dyslexic and then we have 2 that are advanced placement, and they all 4 are able to use Movies as Literature curriculum to learn their literature and composition for 8th grade through 12th grade. So we've already talked about the 8th grader. The 9th grader is doing the Movies as Literature curriculum. I didn't want to review that this year. All the videos will be in the description box below and probably in some of the cards up in the eye in the sky. But today I wanted to focus on my 11th graders. Now the 11th graders are fun but difficult because they're kind of like, I don't really want to call them my test subjects, but they're the first ones who go through each one, except they did not do children's movies as literature. My current 9th grader was, because by the time we started Movies as Literature, one had just completed 9th grade, one needed to complete 9th grade, and we started with her with Movies as Literature, and then they did British Movies as Literature together for 10th grade. So 11th graders. When in Tennessee and the United States and other places, but specifically I know Tennessee, in Tennessee in 11th grade, they are encouraged to do U.S. history. U.S. history is a course that is required to graduate high school. Not only is it a course required to graduate high school, but in Tennessee, most kids take it their 11th grade year, because for 10th grade, they do world geography or world history, and then for 12th grade, they do 1 semester of government and 1 semester of economics. So, and then with homeschooling, the credits are year-round, however long it takes them to complete that course, and then they do the course year-round. They don't go from fall semester just English. You probably can, but that's just not really how homeschooling is set up. So we don't do it that way. I actually like the year-round method better, because then you're not getting a semester off from English and then going back to English 1 or 2 semesters later. So I kind of like the homeschooling method better than the constant changing of the constant changing for the semesters. I do say that though, in our summer semester is totally different from our fall and spring, but that's a different topic for another day. So my 11th graders, they're the first ones to be going through American Movies as Literature. Now, at the exact same time right now, their younger sister is an 8th grader, and she is going through children's movies as literature, but mostly based off of American Girl. Now, I love teaching American history for 8th grade with American Girl, but I know 11th grade, they need to have a little bit more advanced, and there's more actual question answer and critical thinking involved in the 11th grade. So we'll talk later about what my 11th graders are taking for U.S. history, which, spoiler, they're actually using a college level course to do U.S. history for this year. So I did not want to do American Girl movies for them for every movie. So what I did was I sat down and did the exact same thing we talked about last week with my 8th grader. Was I sat down and basically made a timeline of U.S. history, starting with the Native Americans to today. And I filled in movies based on those time frames. I'm loosely springboarding it off of what my American history student is doing, because again, I'm kind of outsourcing it to a college level course right now for U.S. history, but I'm still also involved in it. But we've never done this course before. I've never had a U.S. history student before. This is all new to us. So I was I still need some kind of time frame to focus on. So I based it off the time frame we talked about last week for 8th grade, and then I plugged in the class or the movies based on either true stories that happen in U.S. history or movies that they can find books off of. So sometimes with Movies as Literature, what I will do is I will actually find a movie that covers that time frame that I want to cover, and then I will find additional books to back up the history of that time frame, versus 9th grade, you do Indiana Jones book with Indiana Jones movie, and we'll actually get to Indiana Jones here in a minute. But so it's a little bit different with American history, but also I'm kind of preparing them a little bit ahead of time, because next year for 12th grade, they're doing biographies, and biographies can be loosely based. So it's a little bit different of a concept. So this year it's kind of like a blending of some movies are based off of books. Like this movie is based off of this book with the same title. This movie is based off of this time frame in history, and you're going to read this book from the same time frame in history and see how they connect. So that was kind of how we decided to go. So on the screen right here right now, I'm going to show you the list. And again, for if you have not seen any of the other ones, because you don't need anything other than 11th grade, the first column is going to be the movies list. The next column is going to be the date watched. The attentive plan when we're not traveling and when we're home is that they get a new movie every 2 weeks. It gives them 2 weeks to do a report on top of their other classes and turn it in, and then we do the next movie. The source one tells me whether we have it on Disney Plus. With the other one you saw, like sometimes we'll get movies from Amazon Prime that comes free with our Prime subscription. Sometimes we use DVDs. Like when we're traveling, our van has a DVD player. So when we're traveling, sometimes we'll bring our movies as literature movies with us, and then that way they can rewatch the movie as we go, and then they can handwrite out the reports versus putting them in Google Docs, and that way they can still stay caught up while we're traveling. Because I mean, if they're gonna be traveling for 4 hours anyways, they kind of want something to do anyways. They'd rather do it then, and then also or the other flip side is when we're traveling, they'll do a travel journal that night, and then we just scratch that movie for that week of doing. Well, they'll still watch the movie, we won't do the report because they've done their travel journaling every single night of that trip. So it's kind of like how we balance it out. This is not like a dead set plan. They have to complete it this way. That's the freedom of homeschooling, is that we can say, okay, they didn't do the report with this movie, but they did this travel schooling journaling of this experience that they just went through and described what they ate, what they saw, how they felt, emotions, all of that. And I think all of that is important as well for creative writing process. Then the next one says worksheet completed, because again, another thing that you can do is year-round homeschooling of Misty Lease. If you're not comfortable building your own curriculum for movies as literature, which is basically what we do once we finish the 9th grade movies as literature book, this book right here, which is question and answer, can be reused as often as you want. Once you're finished with this book, you're almost kind of free range on it. So what we did for travel the first year was we went to Year-Round Homeschooling Misty Lease's page, and we used her, there is a worksheet you can fill out as you watch movies, and you can get that from her, and then you can kind of use that to kind of spring form off. So we call it worksheets completed. Every time I enter a capital Y in here and then leave the box, it'll fill in and turn from red to white. That way I know which ones they've already completed whenever I'm trying to rush and do their massive grades at the end of their fall, spring, and summer semesters. And then I also leave a slot in there for what grade I gave them. Honestly, I have found, like, years ago I used to think if you always give your students straight A's in homeschool, that's going to be a red flag. But I've actually learned with umbrella schools that they actually find it more of a red flag if your kids don't make straight A's in homeschool, because they're getting basically one-on-one tutoring 24/7. So technically they should be making straight A's. So it's kind of like a process I've learned through it. So let me go through the movie list. Some of these movies you're going to have already seen with our 8th grade student. And some of the, but none of the American Girl movies from 8th grade are coming over to 11th grade. Because again, they need something that's a little more in-depth, a little more mature, a little more context. So that while they all watch all of these at the exact same time, the reports are going to be different. And they have to tell me before they start what they're going to do for each report. That way I know that each of them is going to be doing something different. And if they turn in the same report, they automatically fail. And if they fail, they lose like switch privileges and have consequences. So number one, Squanto, you saw that one. It was the best movie I could find on like Native American history and heritage. So that one's on Disney Plus. We really liked it. We've already watched that one and we've really enjoyed that one. The next one on here is The Liberty Story. It's on Disney Plus. I don't completely remember watching this one as a kid, but I have seen like the movie trailer for it, and it still covers basically around the American Revolutionary War time frame. Then the next one on here was also, most of these are Disney Plus, was Davy Crockett, because that covers like after Revolutionary War when they start expanding further down. And like right around the time of War 1812, which is basically what I did. And Encanto, again, I wanted a movie, I talked about this last week, but I wanted a movie that had authentic cultural heritage for Central America, because I mean Mexico or Texas used to be part of Mexico, so I wanted something that had a little bit more cultural heritage to that, and Encanto is my favorite one right now that kind of teaches that. Plus it also has songs in English and Spanish, which is great for my Spanish 3. She just finished Spanish 3. She's gonna be taking Spanish 4 soon. Then the next one there is Princess and the Frog. Now, I never wanted my kids to watch it. One of my family members broke the rules and showed it to my kids whenever I told them not to. I was only a fan of Princess and the Frog when they were really little, because I didn't think that whenever you were younger, when you're like 3 to 5 years old, you're going to understand what voodoo is. And I did not want like some things taught to my kids when they were younger until we could have those older, mature conversations about like different religion, different religious rituals and practices. The only reason we're doing Princess and the Frog is because it has a lot of like culture from New Orleans, Louisiana, Bayou area. Tall Tale is a fun movie. I've seen it as a kid. It has all of like the Tall Tale characters from the Wild West era. Ruby Bridges, I think, was one of the ones suggested on Disney Plus that covers civil rights movement. Again, I couldn't find any Civil War movies that I wanted my kids to see that were not completely full of gore or language, so I went with civil rights movies for Civil War and Civil Rights era. Ruby Bridges was the one that came up for that. Lady and the Tramp was basically a movie that is, I don't even know if it's set in American Victorian era or if it's set in British Victorian era. I think it's American Victorian era if you hear them talking. That one, I'm gonna have them do like some more research on Victorian era and things when they do that one, because I don't think Lady and the Tramp was based off of a book. I'm not 100% sure. And that one was mostly just to see like Victorian era time frame. A Charlie Brown Christmas, because at Christmas time I want to do Christmas movies, and A Charlie Brown Christmas is a super fun one, and it also talks about like a lot of hard things that we talk about at Christmas time, about like the true meaning of Christmas and things, and we love A Charlie Brown Christmas anyways. So like at Christmas time I only do one video for December, number one, because we only have 2 weeks of school in December, and number two, Christmas movies, they're fun. It's fun to sit down and watch them, eat some Christmas cookies while you watch it, and then the report can be like just an easy report. Even my advanced placement ones, I'm probably only gonna have them, they're listening, I'm probably only gonna have them do a small report because I want them to still enjoy the Christmas season. I didn't want to do like something hardcore at Christmas time, and the next topic after Victorian is like World War I, Great Depression, and so I wanted to stop at Victorian era at Christmas time. So everybody's doing Christmas movies this year for Christmas time. Then we're gonna go back and we're gonna do holes. So for the first semester, they're all based on like time frame in US history. The second semester, the kids had some fun movies that they wanted to do that were based off of American literature, but didn't fit in specific time frames. So the way that we're doing it for American or US history versus American history, she's gonna go all the way from the Native Americans to Wreck-It Ralph talking about the internet. But with my US history students, they wanted some actual movies based on literature that they want to watch. So for my 11th grade students, the first semester is going to be history based. The second semester is going to be based on movies that they personally chose. And I wanted them to have the opinion of saying, hey, I want to watch this movie that's based on this book. So we're just going to go through the list. The first one is Holes. That's one that I have seen. I really like the Holes movie. The Journey of Natty Gann was suggested on Disney Plus. I don't remember loosely what that one was. National Treasure and National Treasure 2 are just two really fun movies that, I mean, of course there's not a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence as far as we know, but it's still really fun to like watch, and they still have historical moments that they talk about in those two movies. Jurassic Park is the closest thing I'm gonna get to what I would call a horror movie, but one of my 11th graders, she loves that movie, and the rest of my kids haven't seen any of the Jurassic Park movies. So I was like, fine, if you wait until 11th grade, we'll do Jurassic Park. So 11th grade, we're doing Jurassic Park. The next three are going to be Indiana Jones. Now, this is the part that's kind of because I said before I was not going to repeat any movies. Technically, the movies is literature curriculum. You do Indiana Jones. So technically, one of my 11th graders has already done Indiana Jones. But she has to show me the report she's done before, and she has to do a different report this time, which also teaches them to see movies and literature work from different perspectives. So that's kind of where we're going with that one. So the other reason why we're doing all three of them though is they watched the first one, they love the first one. Again, it had a little more language than I would normally allow for a movie, but they really love like the storyline of it and the arc of it, of no pun intended, although my husband would say intend your puns, but the storyline of it and how it's like a different perspective of history, of like a fictional history, but also like real world history tied in with it. So after they saw the first one, they really liked the first one. So I told them that if they could wait till American literature, we would do the last two as well. Now, one of my 11th grade students hasn't done a report on it at all, so she's gonna do it brand new. And then, like I said, the other one is gonna be writing a different report, this time a different perspective of it. And then the last three movies are Star Wars, and I'm having them do the classics because, like, no matter where you start in the Star Wars timeline, episodes 4, 5, and 6 really kind of feel like a foundational point, and all the others were kind of like based off of them as like a fill-in space of like history points and moments that kind of like were developed around those three movies. So that's kind of the springboard for that. If they hadn't really wanted to do the Indiana Jones, and if Disney Plus had not added the Indiana Jones movies to Disney Plus, then we definitely would have done Star Wars episodes 1 through 6. We don't talk about 7 through 9 in our house. And we would have went from there. But that is it for our American literature, how we're using American literature, movies based off of American literature to teach American literature for 11th grade. Again, the first semester is going to be a lot of like history based, and then the second semester is going to be talking about like different perspectives of like American literature versus like the British literature they've seen before, and how it all ties in together to teach composition, literature, penmanship, and like just showing proof of like being able to absorb what you've learned and being able to turn that into a report to submit. And that is it for this video, you guys. Thank you to all our members for supporting this content. If you're interested in like a PDF of like breakdown of how we're specifically doing these movies with movies or as movies as literature, for like the specifics, like movie, the book we're doing with it and all that, let me know. That will be a membership level thing because it's a lot of extra work to do that, and it's an extra way for you guys to support us during this time. But for all of you who just watch, leave positive comments, like, subscribe, that's still a huge help to us, and we will see you next time.